Hello everyone, Edge FPD here again, getting into my 6-inch build. So this is one that I'm going to try. It's the 6-inch remix, and the only way to get this, as far as I know right now, it's not in a kit. You have to order the normal 5-inch and then get the 6-inch arms along with it to get that effect. I got these arms, I got the new body, and well, it comes with arms as well too, so I'll have an extra set of 5-inch arms that I'll be able to put on my other one. I'll have to get some extra spares of the 6-inch, but you know, it's exactly the same as the other one. You know, you slide them in the exact same place. Again, I'm going to be running reverse props on this one as well, so everything's pretty much the same as my other one, except for it'll be a 6-inch instead of a 5.5-inch. Looking at them in the package, you really can't tell the difference between the 5-inch and the 6-inch, but it's definitely going to be able to run the 6-inch without a problem with it, and should have enough room for the spacing for the battery up in this section here. You know, one thing I do want to emphasize that I did do as far as a change, I did put these rubberized spacers, or whatever you want to call them. There's a lot of different names for them really. With the new kit, because I got one of the first model kits, the center set screw did come in place in this one, so that is one thing I had to take into consideration, whether or not the main distribution board would fit over the top of that without a problem, without touching it. And yes, it does. It is a very tight fit. It is not actually touching the part where the power cords would go to. And you know, this one I'm going to do pretty much the same way. I'm going to have my arm on this side for it, for the XT60 connection. We will get this set up a little bit closer. I'll get the camera put in here, the VTX put in here, and the receiver underneath this section, and start getting all these wires hooked up and set to the arms as well too. Yes, I did decide to go with the 3D printed pad for the bottom of it, since this new remix did not come with the discs for protection, so I will be using that and the front part as well too, so I don't scrape it up too bad when I go to land. But yeah, that is one change that I did do, is I used the shorter screws with the rubber standoffs for just a little bit more support in there. If you look here, you can kind of see it does still rock back and forth, so it should give it a little bit smoother performance to it, so the gyros aren't getting vibration from the motors, as well as the motors being soft mounted. I also did not have to actually file these out to get these nuts in, but they do slide in pretty easy and nice now. So that one first step of getting them perfect and getting them set up in there, no longer an issue as far as what I can see. This was really easy to just actually push these in here, get them set up and ready to go. So not that big of a deal anymore. Just something to be aware of. A little bit of change on this frame now. Not much different from what I had on my first build video for you guys. But we'll get through this and get this set up the right way, and hopefully I can show you. So using the same flight controller, same camera, same transmitter, I did change up and go to this style of antenna. I'm going to try this one out because I can pop off the original antenna off the tramp. Again, how I have the camera power hooked up, as well as the rest of the wires going from the VTX to the camera and to the camera to the flight controller. That way I can just come straight out of the back here with the antenna, and I'll be able to go right onto that, right dead center. So the nice part about this is there will be no metal part touching any of the carbon fiber or the screws, grounding it out and causing interference. So that's what my idea is with this. So I'm hoping that that's what's going to work on there. And I'm not trying to steal it from anybody. I did see that Tommy had it on his new build as well too, but I just wanted to give it a shot to see if it makes any difference on the interference from me having it zip tied to the back of the carbon fiber here. I'm worried that my ground is actually going through that and causing a little bit of interference at a little bit longer ranges, because eventually this is going to be my long range once the crossfires come into stock and I can actually get one. But I might get that changed out to something else a little different too, just depending on how far I actually want to go. So, but we'll give this a shot. We'll get this set up the rest of the way. Once I get to the wiring section of it, I'll get a little bit closer on how I did my first build, which this will be exactly the same as that one. So the only thing is I will not be using the meshing on this particular one. I didn't have time to order it, and I'll probably just twist the wires like everybody else does on that part of it. So anyway, yeah, let's get building. So this is how far I've gotten on the 6-inch build. I just wanted to show you guys how the wires look routed with the power distribution board and everything just over the top of it. So I got all my other wires coming out of the backside here, which should go up and over to the flight controller when it's done. As far as the camera wires go and everything, you know, these are the ones from the LED lights, and same way with these longer ones, these are for the LED lights as well. The video transmitter is going to still go in the same spot right there, and these ones are from the receiver itself, which the way that this is set up in here, I just have it basically just kind of sitting in there. I did de-pin the receiver on this one so I could get straight wires all the way through, make it clean, make it nice, make it very, very thin so I can fit it in there really easy without anything hitting at all. So I've already routed the antennas through the arm portion of it there, smart port and S-bus through that section of it. But what I do is I plug in the main terminal for the camera itself, and there's only one wire that I take out, which is the orange one, which is your 5-volt connection. So all the other wires stay in there, and I use, you know, of course, the blue wire for the VBAT, and the white wire should be the audio and positive and negative, which will combine with the positive and negative off of this one as well. So we will, you know, I'll get to that point, but this is basically how I have my wires routed. And I do go ahead and plug in the control pigtail for the camera itself and route it over onto this side, so I have enough room in between here. And then this way, all my wires for my camera on this side, and I can just basically line that up in the center where I want it, like that. And then the capacitor and everything slides on and right in between, just like that. So then everything's a nice clean package that way. And then I can route the wires back to the back portion here, or over on this side over here. Like, I got plenty of lead to do a lot of different stuff with it, but I'll show you how I set this part of it up here in a little bit. But I wanted you guys to see it before I get it too buttoned up, because the next step from this point is going to be soldering on the motors, motor wires, and motor leads. And I did have to extend the wires out of the factory wires, so these have not been cut whatsoever, but coming you know, through this section here and coming up and around and then coming to the end here, it's pretty darn close. So I'll extend these out, and honestly, you know, after heat shrink and stuff, I'll probably be cutting them down to about right there. So it's not a long distance that I needed on there, but these were the extra wires that I cut off the Ladrib motors for my reverb frame. So it worked out perfect. Same wires, same everything, just soldered them together. I still got to heat shrink them, but all of them had to be done. So they're all soldered up, ready to go that way. I will heat shrink everything up and get everything going. So it looks like a cluster right now, and it does until I get everything to length, cut, twisted, all that good stuff too. So these will lay flat and go up along the arms here with the other motor wires. So not too worried about that portion of it. I did cut off quite a bit when I did the 5-inch, so I think the 6-inch will be fine for the length on that part of it. But yeah, everything should be pretty much ready to go and set up and be able to solder up here pretty soon. So I'll get to that portion of it, but you know, like I said, just another quick look at it, just routing the wires up underneath here. I got each antenna going out the opposite direction of the power leads there that go to the backlight, and then my camera leads, my receiver leads, and then the input for the LED lights. So that's as far as I go on that portion of it there. And yeah, now we just got to get the motor leads on there, get my video transmitter on there, and then we can button everything up, and I'll show you exactly how I connect the wires. Alright, I've gotten most of the LEDs lights on, and the motors wired up, and the power leads wired up as well too. At this point in time, I usually go ahead and do the camera wires and the tramp wires. So these are 3 wires coming from the tramp itself, which is the audio connection, the ground wire, and the positive wire. So what I usually do here is I will try to bring it forward underneath, in between the power distribution board like that, and up to this point, and then bring it up to here. So on the camera leads, so these are the camera wires here. The white is for the microphone, black for negative, red for positive. Okay, see how I just kind of stripped that wire back just a little bit there? So I just basically take my nail and I'll just basically just kind of pinch it like this and then pull it out, and then it will show just that little portion of wire there. And so what I'll do is I'll solder on the connection to that from the tramp, and then the longer lead here, I will actually just solder that directly to the power lead here. So, and I will heat shrink that section of it so it's not exposed or anything, but that's kind of the little trick that I do on that, and that's about it on that. The audio speaker, I will just clip it off right at the end there and just solder it together, and then heat shrink it as well too. The yellow and white one is coming from the tramp, and that is the video in to the tramp to transmit it to the goggles. So that's what I'll be doing, is going out from the flight controller to the tramp, and then the white is the telemetry, which I'll show you where to hook that up so you can run your LUA script and change the channels and stuff. So this one here is coming from the camera, so this is your video in. It's going to go in to the flight controller, out of the camera, and then back in so you can get your on-screen display. The blue cable here is for VBAT, and like I said, I just like to hook it up so I have a secondary backup on the camera just in case the flight controller doesn't read my battery voltage anymore. At least I'll have some type of backup through the camera if I really need it. Okay, so this is the closest picture that I could get for you, but as you can see, there's the audio wire right there. It's done up, it's just spliced together, and I'll put a piece of heat shrink over that. Same way with this, it's just Y split together, and same with the negative. So that's the best that I can show you on how I do that. They're just soldered together with that, you know, camera wire, and just put into place just like that. So it's heat shrunk up, it's just kind of stuffed down in that little hole there, but everything's good to go there. I can have the wire leads coming straight out of the tramp, right underneath the rubbers, and straight into the camera itself. So, and then I have the two power leads right here that I have plenty of room to work with to go straight over to the power connection here. It's a good little hidey hole for it. You don't really see it from the side too much, so it works out pretty well. It hides the wires well. I think most of the wires are hidden pretty well on this one. So it's not as good without the shielding on it. You know, I really like having the shielding on it, but again, I didn't have time to order what I wanted for it, and I wasn't exactly sure what color the skin was going to be. That's why I ordered the yellow on the ends here. Well, it's more of an orange, which I should have ordered those on there, and I still might too. Sorry about the computer noise in the background, but that's the quick view of the positive and negative hooked up to the positive and negative terminals. And you know, you can kind of see where I just looped it around from the heat shrink, so I have a little bit of extra room there to play with if I need it. But that's it on the front part of it, and that section of it is done. So now I will basically update the flight controller and get everything set up on that, and we'll move on to the terminals that you put on for the flight controller itself. So this is the way that I wire it up. This is as close as I could zoom it in and still have focus on it. So basically what we're looking at is, so from the receiver itself, we got your negative wire here, your positive wire here. This is your S bus coming in, and then the smart port is actually going to T3. So that's what you're going to choose for S bus in the configuration. And then for the telemetry from the tramp itself, that's this white wire right here, that is going into T6 is what I'm going into on that one. And then of course from the tramp itself, I have the video cable, the yellow cable, going out port of the flight controller, and from the camera, that's this blue and yellow wire here. The yellow wire from the camera is going into the in port on the flight controller here. So you got in and out, and that is basically everything that's plugged into this. So you just have the two wires, the white and the yellow from the tramp, and then the blue and the yellow from the camera itself. So all those are being run underneath this just for cleanness, and you know, that's about all there is to it. There's not much more to hook up other than that. And then I'll show you how you'll want to set this up on your ports so you get the telemetry through the LUA script, and you know, I'll show you how that works on the Taranis as well too. Okay everybody, I've gotten all the components wired in, everything's set up, everything's put back together. So as you can see, it's a pretty clean build. So not many wires are sticking out or anything like that, but all the LEDs are on each corner, on the back, the antennas in the center. So I got my two antennas that I did just like the other one right there, and Of course, a little extra padding on the front. So that is everything on it. So I wanted to show you this part of it. I know there's a lot of you guys out there that don't want to spend the $200, $300, even $500 for a fluke multimeter. So this is one that I've actually had for 2 or 3 years. I've used it in the industrial and everything. I got it at Harbor Freight. It's like 45 to 50 bucks. It's really not that bad. It does come with a 1-year warranty as well too, but it works perfect for this kind of stuff. It has all your continuities. It has your microfarads, so you can actually test your capacitors and see if they're good or bad. Your voltage for DC and AC and lights and everything else. So it's a pretty good unit for the price of what it is. It's a little thicker one. It reminds me a lot of the flukes, but the one thing I do like about it is it actually does have 3 numbers displayed off the back end of it. So it's kind of nice that way. But continuity tests, you know, it does have the beeping to it. But I wanted to show you everybody what this does when you actually have it correctly and you test it for the first time. I'm going to try to get this so you guys can see the display here too. So there, with it low, it just means that there's no continuity. So when you first put your probes on to the XT60 connection, we are going to get continuity, and the reason why is because the capacitor is getting charged from the test lead itself, and it only charges for a couple seconds, so it goes away pretty quickly. So once I go from positive and negative, as you can see, it still says low. If I swap the two, see, it beeps for a second and then goes away and then goes back to low again. So that's the charge off the capacitor off the first time I did it. Now if I reverse it again, it's going to beep again, show continuity, and then it's going to show no continuity. So again, this is normal. On my other quad with the Hobby Wing on it, it does the exact same thing, and I know that one works. I've already plugged it in. This one I have not plugged in, but it does the exact same effect as the one that does actually work. So I wanted to show you guys that, so there's no confusion on, you know, whether or not this is going to work or not. And of course, I don't know 100% if this is going to work. We're going to plug it in for the first time right now and see if we get any smoke or not. We should just hear our normal tones and be ready to go. So 5S energy bar. So we're going to go ahead and plug it in and give it a shot. So hopefully we don't see any smoke. Here we go. Got my test, got my lights, everything looks like it's on. I always smell just to make sure that I don't smell anything, because trust me, you will smell it if it smokes up. But everything looks good. I think we're good to go on that. So now we can unplug it and move on to the next steps. Okay, this is the best way I knew how to do this and be able to still tell you exactly what I do. So the very first thing I do after I've tested it and plugged it in, made sure that the battery terminal works and everything turns on, is I go into the firmware flasher and actually load up and install the newest firmware. As you can see, my configuration is completely off. It's because my flight controller is actually turned 180 degrees yaw and 180 degrees roll. You know, before I do any of that, I always go into my ports, and on UART1, the way that this is wired and configured like I showed you, you want the serial RX on UART1 to be selected there, and then your telemetry output for UART3 is going to be smart port, so you'll want to change that down to smart port. And then for your LUA script to work with your Tramp video transmitter, you'll want to go to your UART6 and then come down here to the peripherals and change this to IRC tramp here. So once you get that set up like that, then you can go ahead and save and reboot and connect back up again. After I get the ports done, then I go down to configuration, and I am running reverse props, so I'm going to select this for that section of it. I always do try to use the highest D shot that I can, which on this particular board it's D shot 600, so I have that selected. And then here is where I'm going to change my roll and yaw degrees. So like I said, it's different depending on how you have mounted your flight controller. In my other video I show you exactly how you can reconfigure the setup on that portion of it, but for the most part, you know, this is going to be 180 on that one, 180 on that one. So then I can go ahead, and I always do turn off the barometer and the magnetometer. I'm not sure why those are selected automatically. And then I save and reboot. So now when we go into the configuration here, yes, it is level now. So as you can see, the quad is pointing the correct direction, and everything is set up the way it should be there. So after I do the configuration and have all that set up, I want to make sure that I come down here and change this to the serial based receiver, and change this to the serial or S bus. Turn on your telemetry. You want to turn on your LED strips if you do have them on. I always turn on air mode on constantly. Your OSD for your camera. ESC sensors, that's only if you're using KISS and BL Heli. And then I always have anti-gravity on and dynamic filters on as well too. So that's about it for this page. So battery meter, I get to that later after I've run a few packs in. I'll calibrate that up. It's usually wrong, just so you know. Fail safe, I just want to make sure that it's on drop and everything's set up there. And of course I set up my rates. I've left all the normal PIDs to factory. The only thing I do usually change is I do change this up to 90 on the yaw. Just something I do on every one of them, so I like 90 and 45 on that portion of it, and then I will tune the rest of this later. So I have a couple tunes to try and see if I can get it any better. Filter settings, again, I'm just going to leave this alone for now. You know, a lot of people are changing this over to PT1, so there's just lots of different stuff that you can do on this part of it that I'm not going to get into. I mainly wanted to show you this section of it so I can show you what I do to get the actual configuration and the ports correctly so you can use your LUA script. So this should be the way that you want it set up if you wired it the same way that I showed you in this video, and then we will go ahead and show you what it looks like on the actual radio itself. Okay, so now this is the first thing that I usually do on this section of it, is I'm going to discover new sensors. So one thing about this flight controller that I have noticed is you do not get your 5-volt power unless the battery is plugged in. So the receiver will not connect until the battery is actually connected to get that 5-volt signal. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in the battery real quick, and then I'll show you what happens here. Okay, so I should be connected now, and then I will go ahead and hit the Discover New Sensors. Even though it's showing all of them here, I want to make sure I see stars over here on this side. So once I hit that and go back, and we'll go back again, make damn sure I am actually connected. Okay, I do have RSSI signal here, so I am actually connected on here. Not sure why I didn't show any of the sensors yet, but we will find that out real quick here. See, I got a few of them there showing up. So we will discover new sensors again. Stop discovery. Okay, it's possible that I don't have this set up correctly yet. So we will try a couple different things real quick and then I'll get back to you on this one. Okay, I figured out what I did wrong. I actually had my S-bus and my uninverted smart port actually reversed. It was just a simple mistake off of what I did for colors on the receiver itself. So basically this is what you want to do very first, is go to your discover new sensors, and once you plug in the quad, which I forgot to do,
telemetry recovered.
okay, so now we're showing telemetry here, and you'll just want to go ahead and hit discover new sensors, and it's going to come up with all these sensors. It should come up with this many altogether, and like I said, you want to see the stars next to all of them there. And so once you have all those set up and it's discovered and you're seeing them all, like especially you want to see your RSSI, you want to see your fuel, you want to see your current, and VFAS. You definitely want to see that one as well too for your full voltage. Once that's set up and it's discovered all of them, go ahead and do stop discover, and then you should be able to go back and back again, and then basically you want to go to the script page, which is the display page there. So, and then set up a script one. A lot of times what I have to do is actually turn this off to none, and then go back up to script again, hit enter, come over to this one, and I have several different ones loaded on here, but this is the Betaflight one, so you hit Betaflight, and that should be all your setup for the LUA script once you get it loaded up onto the card itself. Then I'll go back and I'll hold that down. That's just some telemetry that I've set up already. Should be able to hit the page button one more time. Okay, that's not necessarily a bad thing. What I usually do when that happens like that is I'll turn off the controller, turn it back on again.
Welcome to OpenTX.
With the quad still plugged in. Once I get to that point again, I'll go ahead and hit that, and bam, there you go. There's your LUA script. And you just want to go through these very slowly and let them populate all the way through. And once you get to the VTX section of it, okay, there's my channels, there's my VTX. So it is showing up, it is showing, you know, what power I'm using, and also, you know, what channel I'm using. And it's kind of nice on this new one, it shows the frequency that you're using as well too. So that's about all there is to it. It's not too difficult to set this up. I hope this really helps you guys set it up the right way. I know there's a few, you know, problems with it every once in a while, but for the most part you should be able to have both these screens without a problem. And you know, as you can see there, it's loading it up every single time. So once you get it loaded up and have it set up like that, you shouldn't really have any other problems once you get out and fly. So again, I really hope this helps, and if you guys have any questions at all on what I've done here or what I've set up, I tried to describe it the best I could for everything, but yeah, that's basically everything on here that I can do. If it's not coming up right away, or it's not reading any numbers or anything like that, change that back to none, then change it back again, and then if it comes up with the error code again, then leave your quad plugged in, and then turn off your receiver or your transmitter, your radio, and then turn it back on again, and it should come up again. So, you know, and once I've had it bound like that and everything is coming up, I haven't really had any issues with it other than that. So, but again, I hope that helps. Okay, this is just a real quick recap of what I did wrong here. So what I did is I had the green wire where the yellow wire is here. So basically my S bus was on where my smart port goes, and my smart port was on where my S bus goes. So those two wires were just mixed up. So again, this is just the way that you configure the coloration of the wires. It's a simple mistake. Pretty much anybody can make it, but I was able to pull it up, see where I had my yellow wire, and it was on the uninverted S port, or sorry, smart port connection. So I needed to change the green to yellow and yellow to green on that to get the telemetry to work. That's why it didn't work the very first time. But you know, these are the trial and errors that you want to check for. You know, if you're not getting telemetry, just make sure that you have your receiver hooked up correctly, and as long as you have the port set up exactly how I showed you on there, that should be correct. Simple fix, just had to swap the two wires and now it works just fine. So LUA script works just great, and you know, I'm ready to fly as far as that goes. So just wanted to give you guys a recap of what was going on here. Well, again, there it is, fully functional 6-inch remix quad, and yeah, it's ready to fly. So I just got to do a test flight on it, and I'm not going to do any tuning, but I will do my maiden flight on it as soon as I can. Again, the weather has just been absolutely terrible, so hopefully I get to fly one of these days really soon, because yeah, I'm jonesing to fly really bad. But I hope that helps you guys out quite a bit, and you know, if you guys have any other questions, if you want me to show you anything else on these quads, as far as the remix, reverb, rooster, alien, any of those like that, I'll be more than happy to show you guys exactly how I've set these up and how I get them to fly smooth or anything like that. So, you know, this is soft mounted motors, it is soft mounted flight controller, so this one should fly pretty smooth, and I'll probably change my other remix over to that as well too. But you know, this was a fun build just as much as the first one was. You know, I got a little bit of research to do on the LEDs because they're still not working 100% correctly, but the flight controller board doesn't really have too many instructions on exactly how to hook that up. I tried it one way and it's just not working, but I will keep working with that until I get it figured out. So other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed, and like, subscribe, ask questions, anything you want. So I'm here to help, and I hope this video really helps you guys out. Thanks. Bye.